Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be discussing how much exactly it's cost me up until this point to one-ton swap the Resurrection Cherokee. Like I just said, today's video is going to be all about money. We're going to be discussing how much I spent up until this point to one-ton swap the green Cherokee, or the Resurrection Cherokee, which we're going to be calling it from now on. If you're new to the channel, we've been working for about the past 2 months on one-ton swapping this Cherokee, which is our 2000 Jeep Cherokee. We've recently, in like literally the last video, we just finished basically putting together the front suspension, the steering, the track bar. So I thought now was a good time to let you all know how much I've spent thus far. Over the past 2 months, I've gained a lot of subscribers, and I'm assuming, I know, that a lot of y'all are Cherokee owners as well. Probably looking to do the same thing. And a question that people always have is, how much does it cost? So that's what we're gonna be looking at today. I think it's gonna be a cool video to know how much exactly I've spent to date, and then once we literally finish the Cherokee, we can make the same video with updated numbers, basically. I'm gonna be splitting this video into 3 different sections. I got a little cheat sheet here. So the first one is gonna be how much I've spent to date. The second is going to be the estimate of how much it would have cost me if I wasn't building everything. If you're new to the channel, I've been building literally everything underneath of this Jeep, from the brackets to the truss to the steering arms. I've built it all. I have access to my CNC right here, so it makes it very easy. It's gonna be cheaper in the long run. But in this section, I'm gonna be going over how much it would have cost if I bought all these parts and pieces instead of making them. I think that'll be a little more relatable. And then the third section is the estimate on how much I'm gonna need to finish this Jeep. It's gonna be a pretty big number, so make sure to stay till the end of the video. I don't know how I'm gonna finish this. I'm hoping to finish this by June, but looking at that number now, I'm kind of scared. So as you can see on the screen recording on my computer, I've been keeping very good track of literally everything I bought for this thing. For this first section, we're gonna be splitting it into 4 different categories, which is gonna be parts, the metal I've used to make everything, supplies, and then miscellaneous. So the first thing you see right here in the black section we're gonna call it, is the parts that we've bought. You can already see the number right over here to the right. It's $2,665.12. This is definitely the most expensive section, if you will. First thing in this section was the Knott's custom fender flares I bought for this. I bought them back in November. I think November. They're pretty expensive. They're $700. You can see them right here. This is one of them. These are gonna be getting color matched to the same color of the Jeep once we go to paint the Jeep as well. I think these are the best looking fender flares for the Jeep Cherokees. So I'm pretty happy, pretty excited to see what they're gonna look like all done. Also in this section, one of the first things I bought as well is the quarter panel armor. We went with the JCR quarter panel armor for the upper and the lower. We're gonna be keeping that lower quarter panel. If you watch the series from the beginning, you know that this all started once I dented that rear quarter. We were able to bring back the shape to that rear quarter, but it wasn't gonna be perfect. It was never going to be. It was a pretty bad dent. So we got this quarter panel armor to kind of hide that, and I think it's gonna be good at protecting it as well in the future. The next thing on the list is a very expensive component. It's the tire. I've only bought one so far, since I really only needed one to figure out how high up to make this Jeep. Once we're a little further along on the build, I'll go and buy the rest of them. This is a $587 tire through Amazon. It's a 40-inch needle trail grab, 40, 13.5, 17. And like I said, they're expensive tires, but these are the ones I want to be running. The next thing on the list is the single, or the 2 most expensive things I bought so far. And that's the coilovers that I got through AccuTune. These are roughly just over $2,000, which is very expensive. I could have kept this Jeep coils in the front. It would have kept that cost down about $2,000. But I really wanted to go coilovers, so that's what we're doing here. These coilovers are the Fox 2.5 by 14-inch coilovers. We are going to be able to fit the 14 inchers in here without going through the hood, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, like I said, they're pretty expensive, about $2,000. These coilovers are built by AccuTune specifically for this Jeep. I let them know exactly what we're gonna be doing with the Jeep once it's all done, and they valved them specifically for this build. So pretty excited to see how this thing does on the road and on the trail once it's all done. After that, we got a few miscellaneous stuff in this section. Tube connectors, which is like the tube connector so you can unbolt a piece of DOM, kind of for a cage or whatnot. We were gonna use these for the cross member for the coilover towers, but we're not even gonna probably use them anymore. But I'm still gonna include that onto here. So we got the tube connectors, some Johnny joints, some two bungs for the links down there. We've got some Heims and then some hardware. So that brings this section, the most expensive section, to $2,665.12. That section is going to probably triple, quadruple. It's gonna get very expensive very quick. I'm very sorry, guys. I forgot about one extremely important thing for this section. I never brought up the price of the axles I have. That is probably the most important thing for this section. My axles were pretty cheap. I forgot about them because I bought them back, I think in 2020 or 2021. It's 2024 right now. I got my axles extremely cheap. They're 2003 F350 axles, so they're already cheap to begin with, but I got mine for $200. $100 an axle. And then at the same time, I paid someone to sandblast them $100 an axle, so I have $400 into the axles themselves as of right now. Now, my axles were not complete when I got them. They do have everything inside of them, but I didn't have any hubs, any brakes, anything like that. So in a sense, it's gonna be a little more expensive since I have to buy all those things, but I probably would have anyway because I'm a weirdo like that. This Jeep has to be a very capable and reliable Jeep. I'm gonna do that by getting mostly new parts. So I'm just gonna add on to that price $400 for the price of the axles and the price of sandblasting them. And then another $22 for the hubs I got at the junkyard a few videos back. $422 I forgot about. Axles can get much more expensive than that, but that is what I got personally. All right, back to the video. The next section is the metal I bought for this build so far. Like I said, I've been building literally everything under this Jeep and cutting it out with the CNC I have over here. I bought 3 pieces of plate so far. We're gonna be buying more in the future. 2 of them right here were 3x4 foot sections of 1/4 inch plate. It changes every week you go to get it. So this one was roughly $160 and the next one was $140. And then right down here for the last video, I needed to buy another piece, which we still have plenty of. It was about half the size of that section, which was roughly $90. So those 3 pieces of metal, the 1, 2, and then 3 right here, that was roughly $400, just under $400 actually. So those 3 pieces of plate, we were able to make literally everything on the front of this Jeep. I'm talking the truss, the coilover towers, the lower coilover mounts, the control arm mounts, the track bar stuff, the high steer arm stuff, literally everything. Now I did have some metal lying around like the 3/8 that I was able to save some money that way. So it probably would have been a little more expensive if I had to go buy some 3/8, but I didn't. So it kept that cost down quite a bit. Basically, just under $400. I think it's about $375 actually to build literally all that stuff is pretty good. Also in this section, I have some DOM. This is for the steering, the track bar, and the links. Some 2-inch quarter wall stuff for the links, and then 1.5 quarter wall for the steering and the track bar. Some of it I still have left over, a couple feet. So I actually bought a little too much. This was roughly about $360. It is expensive stuff. I think it's roughly $15 to $20 a foot nowadays. If you go into the old Jeep forums from the early 2000s, I'm talking 2000 through 2005, you can see that people talking about how high the price of DOM is when it's literally only like $3 a foot. So it's definitely gone up in the past like what, 20 years or so. This next category is the supplies. This is a category that I see a lot of people don't talk about because it's very easy to figure out how much your parts are gonna cost before you start a build, but it's very, very tough to figure out how much you're gonna be spending in consumables and supplies. So that's why I'm keeping track of that as well. That's this whole red section right here. The total I've spent on this is $375. You can see that to the right. And in this section, you can see I've got a stud pillar that I use to pull the dents in the rear there. We've got some welding gas. Only had to buy 1 tank of welding gas so far. We got the welding blanket, a weed burner, some miscellaneous stuff, some welding triangles, some sanding discs. The welding blanket and the weed burner is what I used in the video where I welded the axle tubes for the Dana 60. I used the weed burner to heat it up, worked pretty good, and then the welding blanket to cool it down. So I kept track of that stuff, $99 just from Harbor Freight. We got some welding rod that I used for stick welding those axle tubes as well. PVC to set up the links, the steering, and the track bar. Some more sanding discs. I'm sure this number is going to double. I go through a lot of sanding discs. We've got a brake cylinder hone. I use that to hone out the DOM for the high steer arms. Bought a 1-inch drill bit and a 3/4 drill bit. I think one of the last videos when we did the steering, that was roughly around $75 actually. And then we got some body filler. We haven't used that yet. We're gonna be using that for the body work. And then some hole saws. So yeah, $375 for that entire section. That's just a section that I'm glad I'm keeping track of because it's something that's overlooked a lot. I'm sure this number is probably going to double or triple depending on what tools I need to buy, how many more sanding discs I get. So I'm excited to let you all know once I'm done with the Jeep what that number is at, because it's definitely gonna go up. And this last section is actually stuff I bought and haven't made videos on yet. Just, you can see just some miscellaneous stuff that I'm not gonna get into, but we spent $65.42 on just those miscellaneous things. Really not anything to do with the one-ton swap. So in total, I don't even know if I said this yet, but in total, we have spent $3,853.41. So really not that bad overall. We really haven't had to get anything expensive yet other than like the tires and the coilovers. So really in the big picture of things, that number isn't all that bad. But that number is going to be growing from here on out very quickly. It's going to be growing by quite a bit. I'm kind of scared actually. You guys will see the number I'm going to give you in this last section, the estimate to finish the Jeep. All right, so let's get into section number 2, which is the estimate. Now, how much it would have cost me if I was buying everything versus fabricating everything. I'm talking the truss, the brackets, everything that we built up front so far. For this, I'm also using a screen recording. You can see that we're on artec.com. You can go through a dozen different companies to buy these things. I bought a lot of Artec products in the past, so that's why I'm using Artec. This is just gonna give us an idea of how much it would have cost, like I said, how much it would have cost if I was buying everything versus fabricating everything. This might be a little more relatable to people who don't have access to the tools I have, like the CNC. So that's why I'm doing this. So I'll start down here. This is the truss for the Dana 60. I should also note, this is a non-coil truss. So this is if I was gonna go coilovers as well. You can see this one's at $320. The truss that's for if you were using coils is actually, I think, around $600. So much more expensive that way. So we've got a truss, an upper control arm bracket, track bar bracket, lower control arm mounts that are specially made for the Super Duty axles. They're really not that expensive. We've got coilover tabs. I don't know if they're specific to this truss, but just the general idea, coilover tabs are pretty cheap. Just general shock or coilover towers. There's a lot of different ones out there. I just threw these in the cart though. And then up here, we've got an adjustable track bar bracket mount for the frame side. It's really not that expensive. I probably could have saved some time. And then the last 3 things are for the rear. We've got a rear truss, some shock tabs, and then some leaf spring perches. So altogether, this stuff would have cost around $1,366.70. That's without tax. I should also note that all my numbers I had before were after tax and shipping on the stuff that I didn't buy locally. So $1,300 versus the $400 in the metal I bought to build everything on my own. So I've got no problem with those parts. If I had the money, I would have loved to buy those parts, but I'm having a lot of fun building everything on my own. So I'm just saying that there is cheaper ways to do it. I feel like I'm doing it a pretty cheap way. And as you can see, it's significantly cheaper. Now I understand not everyone has access to a CNC, a bender and whatnot, those special tools. But if you do, it's definitely the cheaper option to go this route. I should also note, just about every single part on here has been cut out 3 or 4 times. I'll usually cut out a piece, it'll either be wrong or I'll find a way I can do it better. So I'll go cut it out another time. So I bet if I wasn't messing up pieces or cutting them out multiple times, I probably could have brought down that price even more. By getting less metal, I mean. Probably to around 200, 250 bucks. So definitely significantly cheaper. That's just what I'm trying to say. Now we would still have to buy the DOM, which like I said, was roughly $360. We're not even getting into steering kits or whatnot, and we're not getting into the 3-link crossmember we got down here. That is something we've already had, so I'm not getting into the price of that. We will have to buy some more metal down the road to finish this build, but as of right now, pretty cheap compared to if we were gonna buy everything. So the last section is the estimate to finish the Jeep. As most of you already know, I'm trying to get this Jeep done by June, so this is the money I'm gonna have to spend to get this thing done in that amount of time. It's gonna get very expensive very quick, you're gonna see. So the first thing is the metal. I have all this stuff blacked out on the Google Sheets. This is just a very basic list of stuff, just to give you a general idea of prices. As we go down the list, I'm gonna unblack it out, and you'll see the price. And my estimate on how much more metal I'm gonna be spending is $500. The things that we still need to build for this are the coilover towers / the cross brace. We're gonna be doing both sides and sliders very soon. We might do something with the rear bumper. We might make a new rear bumper altogether. So I don't think that this number, $500, kind of accounts for that. If we do a rear bumper, it'd probably bump up that $500 a little bit. We're gonna be doing a rear truss and stiffeners as well, but I've got something in the works for that. You'll see in the next couple of videos. That $500 does not include the rear not the rear bumper. Yeah, it doesn't include the rear bumper, the rear truss, or the stiffeners. You'll see what I'm talking about in an upcoming video. Wheels and tires. I'm I'm just gonna show you guys. $5,000. I'm not looking forward to that. That's why I'm trying to hold off on buying wheels and tires, because they are literally so expensive. That $5,000 does not include this one that we already bought, and it includes a spare wheel and tire as well. That's with some beadlocks. I'm not disclosing which beadlocks we're going with yet. I'm kind of trying to keep that a secret, but they're roughly around $550 a piece. Definitely very expensive. So not looking forward to that, but it's on there. The next thing is the locker for the Dana 60. Like I talked about in the last couple of videos, I'm thinking about going aux locker. We're just doing a front locker for now, and then down the road, hopefully before winter, we'll be doing a rear as well. That locker roughly costs $1,500. So definitely not cheap. We're gonna be buying that here soon. Then we got the gears and rebuild kits for the axles. We're gonna be doing 538s. This number, let's see what the number is. This number is around $1,500 as well. Not sure which gear company I'm going with yet. I think I did a little on the high side for Yukon, because Yukon is incredibly expensive sometimes. But yeah, $1,500 for that. I'm also thinking about Motive or Revolution. If anyone has experience with those two gear companies, let me know what you think of them down in the comments below. Paint, I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm thinking we're gonna paint this entire Jeep, but I'm really not sure yet. Obviously, we've got some work to do. We've got to color match these fender flares and the rear quarter panel armor in the back. But I don't know. I've never painted an entire vehicle, so I'm not really too sure. So I just put this down at $500 for now. Obviously, that's for a number for if we do it ourselves. But like I said, I'm not too sure. I think that might be on the low end. I think it might be a little more than that. Drive shafts, I also didn't dig too deep into this. I've always bought Tom Wood drive shafts. I think I own about 3 of them out in the other rigs outside. We're probably gonna be going Adams drive shafts for this build, just because I think they have a better warranty. I gotta look a little more into it. But for this cost, I'm just estimating around $1,000. That also might be on the low end. It might go a little above that, because drive shafts have gotten pretty expensive nowadays, but roughly $1,000 for that. Bump stops and limit straps, I'm assuming to be roughly $1,200. That's for some Fox 2.5 hydraulic bumps. I'm not completely sure which ones I'm going with yet, so that's just a rough estimate. I think they're around $480 a piece. Axle ends and brakes. This is something that's overlooked a lot of times as well. Brakes for these 1-tons can get very expensive very quick. And what I mean by the axle ends is like the locking hubs, you know, lug nuts, just silly things like that. This I'm estimating, I hope I'm wrong, but estimating around $1,000, hopefully less. I guess that does include brake lines and whatnot, so it might end up going over that $1,000. Hopefully not though. Now leaf springs. We're not going coilovers in the back of this Jeep just yet, just for the fact that I want to get it done by June. It would take a lot of more money and more time. We'll probably be doing coilovers down the road, so this is just for a leaf spring. That's what this number is for. We're probably gonna have to get new leaf springs. I'm not sure yet. Once we set up this rear axle, we'll know for sure. Might have to get some longer ones with a bigger arch to them. Not really too sure yet. This number I'm about to show you is a rough estimate from a local company that makes leaf springs. You might have heard of them. Their name's Alcon Spring, and this is the number right here. $800 roughly for the leaf springs. And then they do make a really cool joint instead of the bushing, so we can get more flex out of them. That would cost roughly double that. So roughly anywhere between $800 and $2,000 for that. I don't know. I'm hoping that we don't have to buy leaf springs, because if we go coilovers in the back, it's just gonna be a waste of money. But that's that. And then shocks for the rear. I don't think I have anything right here. No, I don't. I want some adjustable shocks for the rear, but like I said, if we're going coilovers, then it's just gonna be a waste of money. So I'm gonna be taking the front shocks, the front Bilsteins that we had in the front here, and trying to adapt them to the rear. We're gonna see if we can make that work, and hopefully keep the cost of this build down. So the total estimate to finish this Jeep, oh man, I don't even wanna look. $13,000 to this little old 2000 Jeep Cherokee. So as you can see, it's gonna get expensive very quick. Obviously, it might be more than that, might be less than that. Obviously, there's ways to make this much cheaper. You know, for example, I could be buying used 40s on Facebook Marketplace, probably about for half or a third of the cost of these new ones. Same thing with wheels, but I like buying stuff new. That's just what I like to do. I could be buying some steel wheels for literally $100 a piece, but why am I gonna go through all this trouble just to not have beadlocks, that sort of thing? We could be going with rubber bump stops instead of the hydraulic bumps. There's just so many ways to make this cheaper. We could be building our own drive shafts. But this has to be a capable and a reliable rig. That's what I've been saying this entire series. I built a lot of Jeeps and just rigs in general in the past, so I feel like I'm pretty qualified to estimate how much stuff is gonna cost. So that's where those numbers come from. If you think I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. I can take the criticism as long as it's funny and not rude. You just don't have to come at me for my hair. We can have a civil discussion about the prices of whatever gears and lockers cost and tires and why I should be buying Facebook Marketplace tires. I'm totally fine with that. Let's have a conversation about it. Like I said, I built a good amount of rigs in the past. I feel like I'm pretty qualified to estimate these prices. So hopefully that gives you a little insight into the money I've been spending on the green Cherokee thus far. We've got a lot of great things coming for the Resurrection Cherokee in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited to show you all that in the next coming videos. Hopefully this video helps you out if you're looking to do the same thing. If you're not ready to fork over the money to do a one-ton swap, don't even get into it. It's not gonna cost you $1,000 like your buddy's telling you. It's gonna cost a little more. This video, I don't think I'm gonna include in the Resurrection Cherokee series. It's not gonna be numbered at least. It'll still be in the playlist, but as of right now, this is just part of the Cherokee Resurrection series, but not numbered. I think that's how I'm gonna do it. But if you wanna find it later, it's gonna be in the Cherokee Resurrection series playlist. So I'm gonna get back to work on this thing, so I'm gonna close out this video. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. We're seeing all the engagement, all the likes, all the comments, all the subs, and we really appreciate it. Let me know what you think of the series down in the comments below. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching. I'll see y'all on the trail, and I'll see you next time.